News Channel 2.
2025. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Gary Lubitor.
And I'm Storm Tracker 2 meteorologist Eric Gage.
And what a gorgeous day yesterday, but
fantastic. Yeah.
You're looking at some potential storms today, right?
Yes, and some of them could be on the strong severe side. We're going to break down what the potential is, the timing and whatnot in the next few minutes. But now, for at least taking a look outside, it's a quiet start to your day today. Sunshine pretty much expected for much of the area early this morning. The local temperatures also a mild start, 54 in Otter Lake, 43 Inlet, 47 Westmoreland, 55 in Deansboro. To the south in the 50s in Cooperstown and 54 degrees in Oneonta. So again, today is an alert day. A strong cold front moves over our region by the late evening. But ahead of that front, there could be some stronger storm potential as well. Now, the radar right now is entirely dry. Just the radar scans picking up on this inversion for now. And what we're tracking, well, again, the biggest storm concern are strong bursts of winds in these storms itself. Then, another thing to mention, too, which might ease some of your minds, the LCL, or lifted condensation level, doesn't support big tornado risk. This is not a tornado-driven severe weather risk, but still, it's a non-zero risk, so we have to remain weather aware. And as well, we have to monitor supercells ahead of that trailing line of storms because these supercells are the ones that could cause rotating storms. So today, look at this, very warm. Might be the first time we hit 80 degrees since Halloween. And then we'll see thunderstorms roll in by the 6 p.m. time frame, maybe an isolated one earlier than that, but still we are tracking the timing in a lot more detail, and again, those impacts coming up in that full forecast. Gary?
Eric, thanks, and don't forget the Storm Tracker 2 forecast is never more than 10 minutes away each morning. It may be 4 weeks late.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Welcome back to Sunrise. Time now is 5:12 and heading out the door early today. It's actually a lot warmer than yesterday morning. Some spots 20 degrees warmer, so no frost expected early today. In fact, we got mild conditions, sunshine, dry weather. A look across the state right now, and at least a look across central New York. You've got these clear skies for the time being. The radar and the roadways looking dry, no accidents to report as of now. And again, the radar tracking that inversion, but this inversion will weaken as the sun continues to rise. Either way, it's a dry morning, sunshine, temperatures in the 40s and 50s. We're climbing into the upper 60s, eventually upper 70s, pushing the low 80s this afternoon. And those storm chances increase, especially between 4 and 6 p.m. And then a secondary round later on in the evening. But we've got two separate storm chances, at least types of storms. Yes, they're different types. I'll explain the difference and the more detailed timing forecast coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
An active day for you over there.
Yes.
Eric, thanks. Artificial intelligence can now help you
The Oneonta Cam is brought to you by Semicron Danfoss. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everyone. On this Tuesday, today, Storm Tracker 2 Alert Day. We are tracking the potential for some storms later on this evening, but that's not happening right now. In fact, quite the opposite. Completely dry weather across the board here in central New York early this morning. Oneonta, live view right now. Of course, you can see the faint dots of Venus in the northern sky, or at least eastern sky right there. The temperature sitting at 54 degrees. Not too bad of a start temperature-wise early this morning. Radar, as I mentioned previously, it's just picking up on an inversion near the surface. Nothing's really going on activity-wise here locally. We zoom out a little bit, and here is that approaching frontal system. And there's a lot of ingredients at play here. A lot, I would say, from a scale of 0 to 10 in forecast difficulty, I would say it's probably around a 5 to a 6. We are looking at some ingredients here that could play into some potential severe storms. In fact, you notice here level 3 out of 5 risk in that dark brown area here just west of Utica. But also the main concern being damaging wind. You see that red zone right there. That includes portions of western Oneida County, as well as the risk for hail, still one of the secondary risks with this system. But here's a look at the latest severe weather risk. The brown zone has increased with the latest model data coming in. And here's the thing when it comes to this weather today. So we have multiple ingredients that produce severe weather, different kinds of severe weather. There are supercells, or isolated rotating thunderstorms, or a linear line of thunderstorms, sometimes called squall lines or QLCSs. Those are mainly straight line wind damage. And we've got a variety of potential impacts with different types of those today. What we're concerned about is ahead of that line of thunderstorms, the potential for 1 or 2 rotating storms to fire up. Now, there's instability, there's plenty of rotating winds in the atmosphere, but it just has to overcome that lifted condensation level, which is a little bit higher up in the ground, meaning that our tornado risk isn't nearly as high, but still. I want to just emphasize the biggest concern today, regardless of tornado risk, is going to be some strong wind gusts embedded in these storms, as well as the secondary risk being hail. So here we are, that bigger picture. That front moves through. Following 9 to 11 p.m. tonight, severe weather risk is done. So just a heads up that the main risk time will be between roughly 2 p.m. and 10, 11 p.m. So here we are, 5 or so p.m. Here's the arrival of some of these showers and storms. These are the ones we're focusing it on because there's plenty of shear in the atmosphere that could cause some embedded rotation inside these lines. And this is what we're going to be remaining pretty vigilant about today. Now, of course, with the QR code below me on the bottom of your screen, you can scan that. Any warned storms, even tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, will be sent directly to your phone. Whether you're near a TV or not, you can head to our broadcast. If there's a tornado warning, we'll be live on air. We'll post severe thunderstorm warnings as well if we need to on our social media pages, as well as going live on Facebook Live, not only for a brief broadcast or a brief forecast this morning, but also when weather might turn dicey. So again, we're covering this all. I know some folks that might have been through a storm or two, severe storm. Look, we're covering it. We got this. We'll be okay.
That's for sure. Get the app if you don't have
Yes.
it. Eric, thanks. Well, for decades. Good morning once again, and thank you for joining us for this half hour. I'm Gary Libator. Well, after a gorgeous day yesterday, there is the potential for some strong thunderstorms later today. Meteorologist Eric Gage is tracking that for us from the Weather Center. Hey there, Eric.
Hey, Gary. Yeah, you're right. We are looking at the potential for severe storms this evening and even into tonight. But for now, taking a live look over the Mohawk Valley from our eye in the sky, our tower cam in Deerfield for now. Temperature of 50. It's a quiet start today. It's going to be a sunny start today, and no severe weather expected early to even the mid to late morning. You can see all those local temperatures here across the board. We're in the 40s and maybe upper 30s up near Long Lake. So the highest elevations, the Adirondacks, still a little bit cool. But heading south, we're in the 40s, even in the 50s early this morning. So it is a pretty mild start to your day today. Radar looking quiet, just tracking that inversion right now. But again, what we're tracking today, the potential for some strong to potentially severe storms later on this evening. The biggest concern, strong bursts of wind inside these cellular storms. Secondly, I do want to emphasize with the data we're looking at right now, the biggest risk is not going to be tornado risk. I know with the active year last year, I know a lot of folks that have lived through a tornado or a tornado-driven storm, this might cause storm anxiety, and I want to just ease your minds on the fact that this is still a risk, but this is not the main risk we're tracking today. In fact, the higher the LCL in the atmosphere, the lifted condensation level, the lack of tornado formation is possible. Either way, we're still monitoring the potential for those rotating storms in the earlier part of the afternoon. So today, dry, warming up quickly, potentially reaching the 80-degree mark for the first time since Halloween. We're looking at the warm-up plus, again, those storms in detail coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
Eric, thank you. And don't forget that Storm Tracker 2 forecast is never more than 10 minutes away. Today,
Channel 2 is brought to you by Holland Farms Bakery and Deli. The Oneonta Cam is brought to you by Semicron Danfoss.
Welcome back to Sunrise on this Tuesday. We are tracking, of course, the potential for severe weather this afternoon, but we'll take a step back here and focus on a photo of the day today. This one takes us to the Ray Hill Trail in Utica of a goose, and the submitter, John, stated that it had the potential nicest nest of the year so far, and a lot of nature returning. We have a lot of birds coming in fact, some photos of hummingbirds as well. And as the days continue to warm, the trees also starting to get a lot more green. Within the next week or so, we're going to see a major shift in the foliage across the board, especially in the Mohawk Valley. And then give it a couple more days in the southern valleys and North Country, we'll be seeing a lot more of that green. So thank you for that submission, John. If you want a photo like that submitted to us, you can send it to WKTV.com/weather/pics. So today, a mild start. In fact, I would say even warm start in some spots in the 50s and 40s. And we're climbing to near 80 this afternoon. The last time, those of you who remember trick-or-treating back on Halloween, it was 80 that afternoon. And it was mild, in fact, warm but windy during trick-or-treating hours. But then that was the last time we hit 80. We'll see if we hit that again today. Coming up. Gary?
Eric, thanks. We now know the
Central New York's most dependable weather team. Here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everyone. Time now 5:50. Today is Storm Tracker 2 alert day. We have the potential for some strong storms this evening. We'll break down the timing and impacts in just a second. First off, a live look at Oneonta. The sun starting to slowly approach over the horizon. Colorful sunrise out there right now. Temperature of 54 degrees. The radar, you see the inversion starting to weaken as that sun begins to rise and that radar scan starting to reach higher up in the atmosphere. Either way, we zoom out, it's dry here locally, but here's that approaching weather system from the west. And when it comes to potential impacts, here we are. Level 2 or 3 out of 5 risk for pretty much all of our area for severe weather. Biggest concerns? Damaging wind. Secondary concern, hail, although hail concerns are not nearly as high as the main concern being strong winds. Either way, here's a look at that in a lot more detail. Pretty much yellow zone includes all of the Mohawk Valley. The brown level 3 out of 5 zone includes western Oneida County and parts of Madison and Shenango County. So what does this mean? What does this diagram mean? Well, so we have two different fronts, or I should say two different potential storm systems rolling in from one single front. And as a bit of a backstory for meteorology, you have supercells, which are isolated rotating thunderstorms, and multi-cell lines of storms, which will be similar to just a line of thunderstorms you can see in the radar. And these have different impacts. What we're concerned about are some isolated supercells or rotating storms ahead of that front that will bring in that line of thunderstorms that will be more of a straight line wind concern. Either way, there's still enough shear in the atmosphere where we can't let our guard down with these supercells later on this afternoon. They might not form at all. They might form 2 or 3 or 4. It's one of those uncertainties that we have to deal with in meteorology. So because of that risk, we have to emphasize that because, of course, the biggest concerns would be those winds as well as that very low but non-zero tornado risk with those supercells. Then the actual line of storms roll through in the late evening, roughly 8 to 10 p.m. The biggest concern for that, mainly just strong winds. So this is this frontal system moving in from the west. You see it pass through. By 10 to 11 p.m., severe weather risk is pretty much all but gone. We're looking dry, and it cools down starting tomorrow. So today, sunny start. If you have any plans this morning, there should be no impacts weather-wise. This afternoon is when things get a little tricky. So we've got some of these cells popping up here, and you can see these embedded rotations inside that line of storms. The shear, or the change in wind speed in direction with altitude, is the ingredient here that plays a very key role on how today's storms shape up. But at least for now, much of these stronger storms stay out in western New York, and they are expected to weaken as they move into our area, mainly due to the fact that this is good timing. It arrives after sunset, that line of storms, so that's going to weaken them a little bit. But still, again, we can't let our guard down. It's a great tool, and for that Storm Tracker 2 app, you can scan to the bottom of your screen any warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings, watches and whatnot. Get sent right to your phone. Location driven as well, nearby lightning strikes, downpours. A vital tool that even I use and everyone in the weather team uses.
And it's easy to download.
Yes, it's free. You can download it.
That's for sure. Eric, thanks. The Bassett Healthcare Network and...
Now, the news with Gary Liberatore and meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. I'm Gary Liberatore.
And I'm Storm Tracker 2 meteorologist Eric Gage.
And you are literally tracking some storms today.
Yes, in the name, I guess. Yeah, we are looking at some storms this afternoon. For now, though, it's quiet, it's dry, it's warm, it's sunny. Looking forward to that start of the day today. A look outside right now. First off, across the Mohawk Valley on the Cadby Tower Cam facing the eastern sky. 52-degree start to your day today with some clear skies, sunshine, a few wispy clouds in the atmosphere, but that's really about it. So expect a pretty pleasant start to your day today. A look at some of the local temperatures. We're in the 40s in Inlet, 51 Otter Lake, 52 in Westmoreland, 55 in Deansboro. To the south, looking at 49 in Cooperstown, 52 in Sherburne, and 46 degrees in Norwich. The radar right now tracking quiet conditions early this morning, but that will change as we head into this afternoon. So what are we tracking storm-wise today? Well, here's a few additional updates compared to yesterday. So the biggest storm concern hasn't really changed. It's strong bursts of wind inside these storms, and there's potentially 2 rounds. A few isolated supercell or rotating storms in the early evening, and then later in the evening, a line of some straight line thunderstorms. Either way, what's called the LCL, or lifted condensation level, doesn't support a big tornado risk. It means it's higher up in the atmosphere. You usually want the LCL to be lower in order for that rotation in the atmosphere to really reach the ground. But still, it's a non-zero risk. And that's why we have to monitor these supercells or rotating storms ahead of that trailing line of storms later on this evening. So we're going to time it a lot in a few minutes. Again, you can see here, plenty of sun to start the day. We warm up into the upper 70s, pushing 80 for the first time since Halloween. And then we'll see the arrival of potential storms by 4 to 6 p.m. The latest details, of course, on that coming up in just a few minutes. Gary?
Eric, thanks. And don't forget the Storm Tracker 2 forecast is never more than 10 minutes away each morning. It may be...
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good morning, everyone. Time now is 6:12, and look at your Munson Commutecast this morning. Well, you're looking at mainly dry conditions, plenty of sunshine, no frost, at least for much of the area, as those temperatures have climbed quickly into the 40s and 50s. In fact, plenty of sun across the board here with the live look at cameras across central New York early today. Blue skies, even some faded sunshine initially from some wispy cirrus clouds early today. Traffic tracker looking dry this morning. In fact, no accidents to report. Lots of green across the board. And the radar also looking dry. Notice that inversion with the lots of light green there fading away as the temperatures climb. So today, impact-wise for travel, dry conditions this morning. Plenty of sunshine. This afternoon, potential for storms, and this could produce some isolated downpours as well as thunder and lightning. Just an early heads up for that. But we are tracking the timing in a lot more detail and the impacts in that full forecast. Gary?
Eric, thanks. Artificial intelligence can now...
The Oneonta Cam is brought to you by Semicron Danfoss. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning. Time now 6:18, and early today it starts out quiet, dry, even on the warmer side, or at least mild side. A live look at Oneonta right now. Temperature sitting at 54 degrees. The sun peeking over the horizon in the eastern hills over there, and the radar itself looking dry, and no rain or even storms expected this morning, but this will change as we head into this afternoon. So here we are. Here's that approaching frontal boundary, And the biggest concern with this is going to be the two lines or two potential storm systems that roll in from this as well. You can see the biggest storm risk zone in the dark brown yellow here, level 2 out of 5 risk. This includes pretty much all of central New York. And strong winds, primary concern. And then secondary concerns are hail as well as an isolated tornado that can't be ruled out. So let's zoom in on that map here. So we've got yellow across the board, level 2 out of 5 risk, brown, level 3 out of 5 risk. And to break down what's happening today, we're tracking two separate types of storms. So a bit of a background here. Supercells are storms that rotate. They're usually isolated, and those are the ones that have the biggest concern for tornadoes. Now, tornado risk is not that high today, but it's non-zero. Either way, we are looking at the potential for between 0 to maybe 4 supercells forming ahead of that line of the second round of storms. Will be a more linear line of what's called a multi-cell storm rolling through. And there is always uncertainty with supercells. Sometimes they don't form at all, but if they do, the atmosphere supports them beginning to rotate and firing up. So that's why for now, our highest concern today are some strong wind gusts, secondary concern, hail, and an isolated tornado that can't be ruled out. And just a heads up, on these scales here, here's level 1 through 5. And keep in mind, the last time we had level 5 here in New York was back in the 1990s, 1998. And this, a rarity as well. So usually level 3 is the highest risk type we get here locally. It is very difficult here with the setup we have in the Northeast to get a 4 or 5 risk level. Either way, let's time it out. Here comes those storms this afternoon. They might fire up here by around 3 to 5 p.m. This is the zone of greatest uncertainty. Hopefully, these don't fire up by 3 to 5 p.m. because that's where that's where the supercell risk is, ahead of this trailing cold front that moves through by 8 to 10 p.m. Now, there could be some embedded rotation inside this line here, so we're monitoring that as well. But once this front passes, severe weather risk is done. So if you're worried about overnight storms, don't worry about it. They're done. It's stable. Atmosphere is stable by around the overnight into early tomorrow. And we're done with severe weather for the time being. It's quiet. It's clear for Wednesday as well as Thursday. But again, today, great tool to have right there in the bottom of your screen, that QR code. You scan it, takes you to the App Store or Google Play Store, whichever phone you have, and gives you the Storm Tracker 2 app, the free app, which is great for warnings. It's great for nearby lightning strikes. If you're out and about, if you're not near TV, the phone will notify you, and it's a great safety tool to have.
Easy, just download it and you got it, right?
Yep, pretty simple.
Eric, thanks. Well, for decades, owning a home has been good morning once again, and thank you for joining us for this half hour. I'm Gary Libator, and after a gorgeous day yesterday, there is the potential for some strong storms later today. Meteorologist Eric Gage tracking it all over in the Weather Center. And Eric, what time are we talking?
We're talking by the afternoon hours, so at least for the morning, it looks quiet. In fact, similar to yesterday, sunshine-wise, dry conditions with a live look in Smith Hill right now in Deerfield. Temperatures are in the low 50s as we speak, and plenty of sunshine as well. The temperatures for now also mild across the board, even the north of the country, 40s in Inlet, 52 in Otter Lake, and in the mid-50s in Westmoreland right now. To the south, same story, 50s, 40s across the board, 37 the outlier here in Unadilla. So the radar dry for now, but again, this afternoon we are tracking those storms. So what's the latest information on it? Well, I can tell you right now, the biggest concern with these storms, strong bursts of winds. That's going to be inside these cells, and there's going to be two different types of storms that roll through in the afternoon. So the other good thing, for those of you who might have storm anxiety, you know, a lot of severe weather, a lot of tornadoes last year, this setup is not very conducive for widespread tornadoes. There's what's called an LCL, or lifting condensation level, that's higher than usual, which means that a lot of that mixing, a lot of that rotation in the atmosphere is not quite reaching the ground, maybe elevated. But still, we got to monitor these rotating storms or supercells that form ahead of that line of thunderstorms later on this evening. We're tracking the exact timing of that coming up in a few minutes, but you can see here, generally speaking, warming up quickly into the upper 70s, pushing 80 degrees with storm potential this afternoon. The details, and of course, a lot more in just a few minutes. Gary?
And that storm anxiety is a real thing for a lot of folks.
Yes.
That's for sure. Eric, thanks. Well, don't forget the Storm Tracker 2 forecast is never more than 10 minutes away. Today is President.
The Oneonta Cam is brought to you by Semicron Danfoss.
Welcome back to Sunrise on this Tuesday. Yes, we're tracking severe weather today, but for now, we'll take a step back and showcase our photo of the day today, which takes us to Utica and Ray Hill Trail of a goose. Yes, and it's a goose submitted to us by John of what he stated was a phenomenal nest, and of course, with a lot of the birds starting to migrate north, we're seeing a lot more of sightings of different birds, the chirps in the mornings and the peepers at night. Something else I wanted to mention too as well. In the evenings, I'm hearing a lot more of the peepers. So maybe a early sign that we're finally entering the spring season. So shout out to John and shout out to Utica this morning for this photo of the day today. And if you have a photo like this one you'd like to share with us, send it to WKTV.com/weather/pics for the chance to be photo featured right here on News Channel 2 at Sunrise, as well as on our social media platforms. So today we are tracking dry weather to start, plenty of sunshine and in fact pretty mild conditions initially, working at the 40s and 50s right now, pushing the upper 50s in parts of Westmoreland out in Oneida County. Now today, after this dry start, things turn a little more unsettled as we head into this afternoon. The potential for storms arrive in the mid to late afternoon as well as the early to late evening. And we're looking at the exact timing, the impacts, and overall the latest details on the storm potential in that full forecast. Gary?
Eric, thanks. We now know the conclave to select the
New York's most dependable weather team. Here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everyone. We are tracking sunshine today, but at least for the first half. By the second half, the potential for some thunderstorms. Some of them could be strong to severe. So let's look at Oneonta right now. Sun is shining, temperatures are climbing. We're in the 54 degree range right now in the city, and in other spots of central New York, mid 50s to as cool as the upper 40s. Either way, the radar is dry this morning, and if you have any morning plans, you should have no issues. It's looking dry, it's warm, and it's sunny. Been finishing up any yard work yesterday, you get it done early today, but that's not the case for this afternoon. So as you can see here, radar and satellite is dry locally, but to our west is our approaching front, and this is the concerning system that's arriving later on today. Notice here, severe weather risk. Yellow and brown here. Yellow indicating level 2 out of 5 risk, brown level 3 out of 5 risk. Biggest concern inside that risk is the potential for damaging or strong winds. Secondary risk being hail as well as an isolated tornado that can't be ruled out. Either way, here is a more detailed view of that risk zone here locally. And I want to just emphasize the risk factors for this approaching front. So with cold fronts moving in and this type of setup, usually there could be a few what's called supercells or isolated rotating thunderstorms ahead of that front. That's our biggest concern. Now, it's not nearly as likely to happen as that trailing line of actual thunderstorms from the front, but there could be 0, there could be 4, and anywhere in between with those supercells. And if they do form, the atmosphere is favorable for them to initiate and to strengthen and to produce high, strong winds, as well as an isolated tornado. But again, with the tornado risk, what's called the LCL, lifted condensation level, is really high off the ground, and usually you need that lower to the ground to support a high risk for tornadoes. Either way, once that supercell threat passes, the secondary line of what's called a QLCS, or in a more, I would say, ordinary term, a linear line of thunderstorms, that moves through, and then the severe weather risk is done. And the timing of it happens roughly between 3 and 5 p.m. for the supercell threat, and the multicell threat will be happening between 8 to 10 p.m. So you see here level 2 out of 5 risk for today, some spots level 3 out of 5. So on our Skycast, today it's quiet, then we're tracking the arrival of some storms. Again, it's not widespread. Notice here our model is struggling to fire up any of these cells here initially, but notice by the second half of the system, arriving by 8 to 10 p.m., there could be some embedded rotation inside this line of storms. That's our biggest concern, along with that wind strength. So as that passes, if you're wondering when does the severe weather risk end, it ends around 9, 10, 11 o'clock. Once that storm, or once that front passes, the risk zone or risk is almost non-existent. In fact, overnight there is 0 storm risk. And we're looking actually pretty quiet for Wednesday and Thursday. But again, alert day in effect for today. Make sure you have ways to get weather alerts, whether either on TV or the best tool, our Storm Tracker 2 app. At the bottom of your screen there, you can scan it with your phone, and it will take you to the App Store or Google Play Store, and the app will send you notifications of warnings, nearby lightning strikes, downpours, and it's free, and it works really well. I mean, I'm not saying it because we have it, it's our app, but also the warnings come down immediately when it happens.
Yeah, and don't forget the radio stations as well. They provide it.
Yes, they help too.
Eric, thanks. Well, all the best that help.
The news with Gary Liberatore and meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here on this Tuesday. I'm Gary Liberatore.
And I'm Storm Tracker 2 meteorologist Eric Gage.
And we are starting out with that severe weather that you've been tracking for the past day or so.
Yes, and for now, again, it's quiet. There's no severe weather currently taking place right now, but our eyes are peeled up later on this afternoon. A look outside right now, again, a look in downtown Utica. We've got some hazy, milky skies. These are some cirrus clouds rolling in. And so far, it's warming up rather quickly. But we can see here on the radar, it's dry here to our west is where that approaching front is beginning to move in. And so far, again, things looking quiet, but things could fire up rather quickly in the next, say, 3 or so hours. A very warm afternoon, 77 officially in Rome. It's 80 in Rochester and in Watertown right now, 84 in Dansville. It is a very warm afternoon, especially in the Finger Lakes areas of New York State. And we're 3 degrees shy of reaching a temperature we haven't hit since late October for Halloween. So again, this afternoon, early this afternoon, weather looks quiet, but we're cutting it close for maybe an isolated storm or two by 4 to 6 p.m. and then 8 to 10 p.m. Lingering thunderstorms becoming to an end. This is only a window of, say, 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. today where severe weather risk is there. We're looking at a lot more detailed timing of that, the storm potential, as well as the impacts in a few minutes. Gary?
Eric, thanks. Brand new this noon, 5.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are tracking the arrival of a cold front later on this evening. And ahead of that front, there could be some strong to severe storms moving through the area by late this afternoon. A look at downtown Utica right now. Of course, there are no storms, at least initially. It is a quiet early afternoon. It's a warm early afternoon. 77 balmy degrees out there right now. It is a beautiful day so far. Dew points still low, but expect this number here to climb in the next couple of hours as that south wind drags in more low-level moisture, which will, of course, add to instability. And the main focus here, which would be the potential for severe storms. Let's zoom out a little bit in the radar. Here's that approaching frontal boundary. It's not going to really arrive in one foul sweep. It's actually going to produce 2 different types of setups for severe storms. So here's the radar and satellite. Here's that approaching front. Now look at the outline of where that severe weather potential is today. Yellow, level 2 out of 3 risk. Or 2 out of 5 risk, I should say, and the brown, level 3 out of 5 risk for severe weather. When it comes to risk for damaging wind, that is the greatest concern today. Strong wind gusts from downbursts potentially, And then still that chance for hail and an isolated tornado that can't be ruled out. So here's a look at the overall risks here. We zoom in so you guys can see your area towns and where that map is located. Again, don't take this verbatim. For example, that exact line there is an estimate. It doesn't mean that if you're outside of Rome heading into Herkimer County, you're out of the woods, or same story where you're not going to see a better chance for severe weather exactly in this point here in Oneida County versus this point. But still, the general idea is that we have two different systems coming in. First off, ahead of this cold front, there's potential for between 0 and 5 or so, maybe supercell storms that begin to form later on this afternoon. The reason why I'm saying this range is because supercells don't like to behave. They don't like to be predictable. They form out of rotation in the atmosphere, they feed into instability, and they behave basically by themselves. And that's what we're focusing on right now. The more predictable system that moves in is later on this evening between 8 and 10 p.m. That's that long cold front that rolls through that'll bring the biggest risk for straight line winds. So either way, much of our area, level 2 and 3 out of 5 risk for severe weather. These two are almost completely uncommon. Level 5 only happened once in 1998. So our Skycast shows quiet weather initially. Early this afternoon, I should say midway through this afternoon, here comes that potential for a supercell here. And the models here are a bit difficult in producing these storm potentials, but this moves through. Best shot for storms roll through around 8 to 10 p.m. And there could be some rotational energy in the atmosphere that we have to keep a close eye on for these storms as they move their way east. And still heavy downpours, strong wind gusts, thunder, lightning, usual sorts when it comes to fronts like this. But when it comes to, say, 10, 11, midnight, the severe weather risk is gone. Maybe some lingering drizzle and clouds, but no worries if you're wondering if you have to deal with overnight thunderstorms. That won't be the case. In fact, the atmosphere will be stable by the overnight and in pretty much Wednesday and Thursday. Quiet weather, sunshine. A little warmer Thursday and Wednesday, but again, with a day like today, if you're out and about, some folks have outdoor sports and everything like that. If you're not near a TV, just get that Storm Tracker 2 app right there on the bottom of your screen. It's a great tool if you're out and about to have it in case you want to have warnings for severe thunderstorms, tornadoes. Just an incredibly vital tool.
Yeah, I know you guys are going to be tracking this all day and evening, that's for sure. Eric, thank you. Researchers at Good afternoon once again, and thank you for joining us. And Eric has been tracking the storms that are due later, and you're actually seeing a little activity to the north already.
Yeah, that's right. The fronts to our north and west, and some of those storms north of us starting to fire up right now. Let's take a look at what's going on in the Mohawk Valley, specifically Utica right now. And you can see here it's pretty quiet. Nothing's still taking place, but let's zoom out in the radar scans right now. And here's what I'm talking about right here. We got some of those storms firing up, some lightning being detected, and plenty of that lightning. And I want you guys to visualize for a second what the atmosphere is doing right now. Think of it as if someone has a soda bottle and they shook it for about a minute. And now you're just set it on the table and you're waiting for that cap to pop off. It could just stay on the whole time, but when it does pop off, this is what happens. These are little soda bottles here that have had their caps popped off and now are firing up with thunderstorms. So that's called the cap, lack of a better word here, that's the official name for it in the atmosphere, and that's what's called the convective inhibition. Basically, it's preventing convection from happening or preventing storms from happening. And right now, we've got that lid on the atmosphere, and we just need something to break that lid, and that's when these storms begin to fire up. So again, for now it's dry. We're keeping a close eye, especially up to the north and west of our area. Still, those temperatures, because we haven't broke that lid yet, continue to climb. We're in the upper 70s, likely hitting the 80-degree mark in the Mohawk Valley by the time these showers and thunderstorms begin to move in. But again, today, it remains pretty quiet until roughly between 4, 5, 6 p.m. Isolated thunderstorms turning to widespread storms and showers by 8 to 10 p.m. And then we're tracking, of course, the detailed timing and the impacts of these storms in that full forecast. Gary?
Eric, thanks. The cause of
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are still tracking the arrival of a cold front that moves in later on this evening, and with that frontal moving in, the potential for storms to arrive later on in the day today. A look at downtown Utica right now. We've got sunshine, faded sunshine across the board, and temperatures still continuing to climb, already upper 70s, pushing 80 degrees in the next couple of hours. Officially 77 in Utica, 77 in Rome. Still a south wind and humidity levels on the rise over the next few hours. So radar right now looking quiet here locally, but as I mentioned in the last few minutes, we've got that cap in the atmosphere. And we zoom out a little bit, some of those storms up north broke that cap and now are producing some pretty decent lightning shows up there. I don't think anything severe right now, no warnings, but still it is a bit of a mixed bag of weather up north right now, with sunshine turning to sudden downpours. So we look at the approaching front right now, and the risk zone includes pretty much all of central New York, with the bullseye of this severe storm potential mainly in the Finger Lakes area and then bordering central New York. Of course, with damaging wind risk, it appears the graphic is not popping up here, but the 30% risk zone in the red would be right, including parts of central New York, as well as hail, which is a smaller sliver into portions of the Finger Lakes. So those risks are there. Hail and strong winds being the biggest concern today. So what about the timing and impacts of these storms? So we have two different things we're monitoring. So usually in setups like this, before the actual line of thunderstorms from that cold front moves in, there are a few stray storms, potentially called supercells. They are rotating storms. They kind of behave on their own, but they are the most dangerous because when they rotate, of course, you think rotation in storms, you think tornadoes. Now, the risk there is not that high. The LCL, or lifting condensation level, is pretty high up in the atmosphere, but if it lowers, there's a risk for that too. Either way, there could be none, there could be a few. We don't really know, and we're being transparent. It just depends on the luck of the draw when it comes to these supercells. But what we can tell you is almost likely, if not certain, there's going to be those rounds of showers and storms that arrive between 8 and 10 p.m. So that's the timing. And when it comes to impacts, you can see here, some of our area, level 2 or level 3 out of 5, rare. We see level 4. Only a couple of times in the past 20 years. Level 5 risk only once in our history back in 1998. So on our Skycast, sunshine turns to some isolated thunderstorms today. Again, we're monitoring that supercell formation. Then by the evening, around 7 to 9 p.m., that's when we start to see this leading edge of some thunderstorms. These are what we're monitoring as well. However, the main risk with these storms will be straight line winds versus rotational winds. Either way, once they pass through, severe weather risk is pretty much all but gone. In fact, it's almost, I should say, 0% chance for severe weather beyond midnight tonight. Lingering clouds turn to a cool overnight, maybe some patchy frost if we're lucky, or maybe unlucky in the higher elevations, but it turns to sunshine for Wednesday and partly cloudy skies for Thursday. So again, as a PSA, a reminder, you can download that Storm Tracker 2 app. QR code right there on your screen. Beneficial for those who are out and about. I know it's 70s, it's sunny out right now. I know a lot of folks are saying it's beautiful. And again, you can spend time outside, but it's always good to make sure you're weather aware in a day like this in case you don't want to get caught outside in a thunderstorm.
Boy, that soda can analogy was perfect.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out better ways to explain it because, you know, atmosphere is pretty complicated.
It could stay in there, or
it could
go.
Explode.
That's for sure. Eric, thanks. Well, as
Where the news comes first. Your News with Kristen Copeland and Jason Pallas.
Don't let the sunshine fool you. We are under a severe thunderstorm watch as a cold front comes in and disrupts the beautiful day we've had up to this point.
Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Bill Cardis has issued an alert day because of it. He's tracking from the Weather Center.
Yeah, we have thunderstorms that are going to be moving in this evening. They are out there on the radar. We can already see a few severe thunderstorm warnings to the west. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10 o'clock this evening for Madison, Oneida, Lewis, Herkimer, Hamilton counties. It does not include Chenango and Otsego County or Fulton and Montgomery County. So this line's moving to the north and east. You can already see a few warnings to the west. This is a live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. And again, we're dry for now, but you can look to the west. Look what's coming. This is all moving to the north and east at about 40 miles an hour. So the timing of this for many areas will be around 6:30 to 7:30 with this starting, especially from the Mohawk Valley and points north. The primary concern continues to be strong straight line winds, and there's a lot of thunder and lightning with this to the west as well. So we're going to continue to follow this line as it moves in. Again, lots of thunder and lightning with this, and again, some strong winds. Already some wind damage to the west with this as well. So it is producing some strong weather. We'll be keeping an eye on it. Look at this, 86 degrees. That's the current temperature. It is so warm out there, but we are not going to see that last. So storms come through, will cool off. It is going to be much cooler tomorrow. Going to look at the forecast coming up. Back over to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. It is not too late to prepare for this storm. To start, make sure your phone is fully charged and download the Storm Tracker 2 app for weather updates. Have a flashlight and extra batteries handy, and stay indoors. If a power line comes down, stay away from it. It could be live. And if it comes down on your car, don't get out of your car. Wait for help.
5 corrections officers, 4 charged.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good evening. We've got an alert day as thunderstorms continue to move in from the west. The primary concern is for gusty winds, locally heavy rain. Some of these storms have had a history of producing wind damage and small hail. More on that in just a second. First of all, live look outside. This has been the story of the day. It has been unbelievably warm, 86 degrees, much warmer than we were expecting. Not quite record warmth, believe it or not. The record's 88, but it was a very warm afternoon. But then you can see the distance, what is to come. This is a line of thunderstorms that will be moving in. In fact, I'm going to step aside here because we've got some new information to pass along. As I'm seeing on my screen, a severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for western Oneida County until 6 o'clock. The storm is centered just north of Syracuse, but it is traveling to the east, and it is having a history of producing some wind damage with this, and that is the primary concern with this particular storm, the possibility of wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour, along with some small hail, heavy rain, frequent lightning. The good news is we've been watching this line. We haven't seen anything really strong in terms of any rotation, but of course we're obviously going to keep following that as these storms move in. Also, too, notice that this is a line, so many of us will be getting some of this weather here as we head into this evening. Again, over the next 1 to 2 hours, I'm expecting to see more severe thunderstorm warnings pop up as this line moves in. There's a lot of energy in the environment here for these storms to work on. This is a report of what has already happened today. These storms fired up about 2 hours ago, and each one of these icons represents some sort of damage, either wind damage or hail reports. And you can see there's been several of them to the west. So these storms have already produced some wind damage. And again, as they move east, you're going to want to be inside when these arrive. And again, stay away from windows because, again, gusty winds, locally heavy rain. These do not last all night. These will start to quiet down as we head in later into this evening. By the way, as you follow this throughout the newscast, just a reminder, you can also get severe thunderstorm warnings and severe weather alerts on your phone by downloading the Storm Tracker 2 weather app. Warm day, temperatures in the 80s across the region, but things are going to change. This is all part of a cold front that's going to sweep through tonight, and temperatures are going to free fall. Storms will be done before midnight. We'll drop down into the low 40s. It's going to be a much cooler day tomorrow. Sunshine, beautiful. Tomorrow night, widespread frost. So we go from mid-80s to below freezing as we get into tomorrow night. And then the weather starts to warm up again as we head into Thursday. Storm den tonight, low temperature of 43. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, a high of 55. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast. We're in the upper 60s Thursday, low 70s on Friday. Another cold front arrives that will bring showers and thunderstorms, followed by cooler weather. It looks like some rain to deal with early Saturday. Sunshine on Sunday, temperatures climb into the 60s looking ahead to Monday and Tuesday. So again, we're going to continue to follow the progression of these storms throughout the newscast.
All right, Bill,
All right,
thank you.
Bill.
SUNY Albany water on Adirondacks lakes is almost completely recovered from metal pollution decades ago. The contamination was from acid rain. The study found a more than 90% reduction in metal contamination across 4 ponds in the last 50 years. It credits the 1963 Clean Air Act as the main factor for water improvement.
The Erie Canalway National Day like today, we don't like to stay away from the Weather Center for too long. Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis tracking the storms on their way here. Bill.
We have brand new severe thunderstorm warnings issued by the National Weather Service. This is for Madison County until 6:30. We also have a severe thunderstorm warning for the western part of Oneida County as well as Lewis County, again, at a similar time. And let's take a look here. We've got this line of storms rolling in, producing widespread thunder, lightning, but it's the gusty winds that's the reason why we have warnings on these particular storms. They've had a history of producing wind damage to the west. Several reports of wind damage in western New York out towards Syracuse, so we know that this is happening. We've even been getting some reports of gusty winds with this from some of the New York State Mesonet data. Again, this is moving east, and this is a general line, so many of us will be seeing this. And again, there will be parts of this line that will be stronger than others, but the general idea is this line of storms will be moving through over the next 1 to 3 hours across central New York. And again, the big story is this is going to cool us off. We're 86 degrees. It is really warm out there, but this cold front means business. We're going to be talking about frost in the forecast by tomorrow night. We're going to look at these big changes coming up. Jason, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. For decades, owning a
Storm Tracker 2 alert day with widespread storms on the way.
Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis is tracking in the Weather Center.
So the storms are holding together. There's a lot of energy for them to work with, and I think this is going to be something that most of us will be dealing with. It's primarily wind. It's primarily heavy rain. Let me show you what's going on here. We've got multiple severe thunderstorm warnings to the west. These are the orange boxes that you see. That's the imminent concern. These particular spots, western Oneida County, Lewis County, Madison County, you need to head to shelter because there's some gusty winds on your way. This is mainly straight line wind. And we've been getting a lot of damage reports to the west from that. We have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Oneida, Herkimer, Hamilton, Madison, and Chenango counties, or I should say Lewis County. Now here's the line. Moving in from the west, we can break this down and look at the wind. This is primarily straight line wind that we're observing on the radar. You can see this big bright green color that indicates winds that are moving towards the radar. And again, this is indicating that there's going to be some locally strong winds as this moves along into Madison County. The northern part of this line, again, also straight line wind is primarily what we're being detected on the radar across northern Oneida County. But we're going to watch this closely over the next couple of hours. All the wind damage. This is in western New York. Each one of these icons, wind damage reports. So it's been doing a lot of damage so far. We're hoping that these things weaken, but wow, they got a lot of energy to work with. It's still 86 degrees at Griffis and Rome for now, but we've got some big changes in the weather, big drop in temperature coming. Look at the forecasts coming up. Kristen, back to you.
Phase 1 of Rome Health's expansion.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good evening. We have a Storm Tracker 2 alert day. Thunderstorms are moving into the region, primarily producing damaging winds. This is multiple cameras on your screen here. Again, those storms are starting to roll in after a very warm day. We do have some new severe thunderstorm warnings to pass along for the National Weather Service. This includes all of Oneida County, so they extended this into eastern Oneida County until 6:30. As well as Madison County and into Lewis County. Look at all of the lightning with this line. This is going to be moving east, but I want to step aside and kind of do a deep dive into different parts of this line where it's strongest. The strongest part of this line is west of Rome, moving to the north and east, and you can see a lot of lightning strikes with this. We'll put a storm track on it as it moves to the north and east. Steuben 614, Remsen 625, Ohio 647. Again, lots and lots of lightning with this. I also want to take a moment to look inside of this storm and look at the wind speeds here. And we've been seeing a lot of straight line wind with this. indicated by Doppler radar. We've also had wind reports, multiple wind reports with this. I'll get to that in just a second. But I want to just show you that so far this has been primarily straight line wind, but we're going to continue to watch this line very closely as well because there's a lot of wind shear in the environment. And again, that's just something we have to keep an eye on. As we look to the west, all of these symbols, they represent wind damage reports, and there's a bunch of them. So this line has a history of producing strong weather. And again, even though, this line is moving in from the west, you want to make sure that you're inside. You don't want to be outside when this moves through just because of the straight line winds, gusting over 60 miles an hour, in some cases up to 70 miles an hour. This rolls through, and it looks to be strongest generally north of Otsego County here over the next 1 to 2 hours. And then things will start to quiet down as we head into tonight. Just a reminder, you can keep up to date on severe weather alerts by downloading our Storm Tracker 2 weather app. Temperatures across the region in the 70s and 80s. Again, it's a warm day across central New York. Feeling like summer. But again, this is not going to last. We've got much cooler weather on the way as a cold front pushes in from the west. And again, these storms are caused by this cold front, and they'll be moving through as we head into tonight. Things quiet down after midnight, and it's going to get much cooler. Temperatures drop into the 40s tonight. Sunshine tomorrow, beautiful day. Temperatures in the 50s. Tomorrow night, we've got a frost in the forecast. It's going to drop into the low 30s across central New York, a major change compared to temperatures in the 80s today. Storms end tonight, low 43. Tomorrow, sunshine, cooler, high 55. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast. Thursday, mostly cloudy, 68. Another cold front arrives on Friday, producing showers and a few thunderstorms. High temperatures in the low 70s. Cooler over the weekend. Rain Saturday, 57. Sunshine Sunday, 60. Temperatures climb into the upper 60s as we look ahead to Monday and Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Severe storms this evening brought driving rain and heavy winds, sending first responders and National Grid crews scrambling this evening. You could see the rain. I mean, that's how it blocked out your view. That's how heavy the rain was. And we're going to start in Floyd tonight, where 5 people were trapped inside a mobile home in Green Mansion Trailer Park on Soul Road in Floyd. Fortunately, no major damage to the home, and fire crews were able to get everyone out safely. No injuries. This other tree here nearly missed 4 other homes in the same trailer park. Folks in Rome understandably skittish after the tornado last year, dealing with some more cleanup tonight. A rainbow over the First Presbyterian Church in Rome on West Court Street. I spoke to Mayor Jeff Lanigan tonight, and he said they put up shrink wrap and scaffolding before winter, and tonight some of that scaffolding came down and the winds pulled the shrink wrap off. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. In other parts of Rome, trees were down, stopping cars from getting through and knocking out power to parts of the city. This is Penny Street Road. Folks out surveying the damage, just trying to get from point A to point B. Elsewhere, fire crews responded to a home on Lakeshore Drive in Vienna for a tree into a home. It happened just after 6 this evening. No word on any injuries or if the house is still livable at this point. We do have calls into the fire department for more information. Still a lot of folks without power due to the storm. About 9,800 in Oneida County without power, over 3,300 in Herkimer County, 485 in Madison County. All right, let's get over to Chief Meteorologist Bill Cardis, kind of wrap this whole thing up. This was a lot stronger than I think folks were thinking because the wind was so high in parts of the area.
You know, sometimes we get fixated on tornadoes, rightfully so, after what we dealt with last year.
Absolutely.
But we can't forget that storms produce wind, and they can produce violent wind over large areas, and that's exactly what we saw, and it was not a tornado. So all of those things can be true at the same time. It's not just tornadoes that do these things. Look at the wind gust at Griffiths and Rome, 77 miles an hour. Second strongest wind gust recorded here. The strongest wind gust was during the tornado, but remember, where that was measured was not part of the tornado. That wind with the tornado was 135 miles an hour in a different location. So again, pretty significant winds across the area. And this is what it looks like. This picture taken in Rome by Monica Marie Underwood. You can see just the wind whipping across the screen. Again, a lot of damage across northern Oneida County this evening. And as we take a look at the radar, we're not completely done with thunderstorms, but we are done with severe weather. The cold front's moving in from the west, and we could see a rumble of thunder this evening. Temperature of 66, still feels a little humid out there, but again, those storms will be coming to an end, and we've got much cooler weather on the way. I'll explain more on why this weather event played out the way that it did. We'll also look at some chilly weather ahead. Look at the forecast coming up. Jason, back to you.
Bill, thank you. The State Attorney General has released trooper body-worn camera footage.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis.
Good evening. We're taking a live look at downtown Utica. We're tracking a few rain showers here. Temperature of 66. Still feels a little humid out there and warm, and that's because the cold front has not arrived yet. It is moving in from the west. And take a look at the radar this evening. We have more showers and thunderstorms, even some lightning strikes here. Good news is that these are not going to produce the weather that they did earlier. We're not expecting any severe weather with this. However, don't be alarmed if you see a few flashes of lightning, hear a few rumbles of thunder. This is moving east, and this is going to move through our area within the next 1 to 2 hours, and then the cooler weather will arrive. The damage reports, take a look at all of these icons represent wind damage, and I want to show you if you can see a pattern here. Can you see this line going right across the state? This was one clump of thunderstorms. It's called a supercell group of storms, and this was the most violent part of the line as it moved across western New York into central New York. The ingredients in place today allowed that storm to last the entire time, and it produced a lot of wind damage across a large area. You know, sometimes you hear us talk about microbursts. Microbursts are in very small areas produced by violent wind. This was not a microburst. This was a very large area wind. This is the downdraft of a thunderstorm. Again, violent storm that came through the area, producing quite a bit of wind damage. It ended it very positively today. We had a beautiful sunset. A lot of folks capturing an amazing sunset, probably one of the best we've had in a long time. This picture from Jason in Clinton, and again, things are quieting down. And again, with a day like today, if you haven't downloaded our Storm Tracker 2 app, you're missing out. It's an easy, simple way to get weather warnings throughout events like this. And again, it just kind of takes the worry out. You don't have to keep checking other sources. It comes right to you. So you look at the bigger picture, cold front is on the way. Again, this is going to produce a dramatic drop in our weather, dramatic cool down. Tomorrow we start out with temperatures in the low 40s. It is much cooler tomorrow compared to today. We're in the mid 80s today. We'll only be in the mid 50s tomorrow. Sunshine, breezy conditions. Tomorrow night, cold enough for frost. Overnight lows drop into the low 30s. We'll start to warm up again beginning Thursday. Storms end tonight, low 43. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, 55 for the high, a much cooler day, and it's chilly. Tomorrow night, we're down into the low 30s, 68 Thursday, mostly cloudy. 72 Friday, showers, thunderstorms, another cold front arrives. We'll cool off to 57 on Saturday. Sunshine returns Sunday, temperatures in the upper 60s Monday and Tuesday. We'll be right back.
News with Jason Pallas.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Severe storms this evening brought driving rains here and heavy winds, sending first responders and National Grid crews scrambling this evening. Our crews and viewers were on top of all of it, and we're going to start in Floyd tonight. 5 people were trapped inside a mobile home in Green Mansion Trailer Park. It's on Soul Road in Floyd. No major damage to the home, and fire crews were able to get everybody out safely. No injuries. This other tree here narrowly missing 4 other homes in that same trailer park. Now, let's go to Rome. Folks there understandably skittish after the tornado last year, dealing with more cleanup tonight. Check out the rainbow over the First Presbyterian Church in Rome on West Court Street. I spoke to Mayor Jeff Lanigan tonight. He tells me that they had to put shrink wrap and scaffolding up on that church before winter. Tonight, some of that scaffolding came down and pulled the shrink wrap off. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. In other parts of Rome, trees down, stopping cars from getting through, knocked out power to parts of the city. This is Penny Street Road. Folks out surveying the damage, just trying to get from point A to point B. And multiple trees and wires down on Lakeshore Drive in Sylvan Beach. Crews from the Sylvan Beach Fire Department arrived to find a tree through this house. Just look at the damage it did. While on scene, crews observed smoke coming from the roof. Due to the unstable nature of the home, firefighters had trouble gaining access. And once they did get there, they were able to confine the fire to an electrical panel. Oh, but they weren't done. While doing overhaul on that home, crews detected a smoke detector going off in a neighboring house. They had to force entry there and quickly confine that fire to the kitchen area. Still a lot of folks without power tonight from the storm, although these numbers are starting to go down slightly. Over 8,300 without power here in Oneida County, over 3,300 in Herkimer County, and 461 in Madison County. Let's get over to Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis. And the big thing with this wasn't necessarily the rain, it was the wind.
Yeah, and it was a lot of straight line wind, which after what we dealt with last year with all the tornadoes, there was a lot of attention brought to that. But it's also important to remember that winds like this come from thunderstorms. They're not always twisting around.
Right.
We saw a lot of straight line winds with this one, and it was big. We had a wind gust of 77 miles an hour, destructive wind, straight line. That was recorded at Griffiths and Rome, second only to the wind that happened on July 16th during the tornado. Now, that measurement was not part of the tornado. The tornado wind damage was as high as 130 miles an hour. So again, it was in a different spot. But bottom line is strong wind. And this is a picture of this. Take a look at this video from Monica Marie Underwood in Rome. You can see the wind moving across the street, whipping around. Again, a lot of wind damage in parts of central northern Oneida County tonight. We do have a round of rain moving through tonight. This is part of the cold front. That's finally going to cool us off. A current temperature of 64 degrees. We are going to cool off tonight into the 40s, and it's going to be chilly tomorrow. Big changes in the weather. I'm going to have a look at that, along with why this particular line of storms was so strong in parts of our area, and it's coming up. Jason, back to you.
Bill, thank you. The
WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis.
We're tracking another round of rain moving into the region tonight. It's a live look in downtown Utica, temperature of 64 degrees. This is the cold front, finally approaching from the west. All the stuff that we had ahead of it was kind of the precursor to the actual front, which is moving through now. This is not producing severe weather. This is producing rain, maybe a rumble of thunder, a flash of lightning. This is going to move to the east, and then the weather is going to cool off. Take a look at this. This is a look at some local storm reports, and what is impressive about this is that if you look closely, this, I'm going to set the data up correctly, apologize for that, is showing the storm path from the last 12 hours, and you can see the pattern here. A line of damage. Each one of these icons represents wind damage. Storms formed in western New York, and they produced hail and wind damage all the way through in a very consistent path. This is called a supercell, a very strong, consolidated wind maker. And again, it's pretty impressive to see one storm do that across the whole state. But the environment was ripe for that. There was plenty of energy to sustain these storms. They did eventually weaken heading to the east, and that was after sunset. Now, going forward, we're going to see some changes. Beautiful sunset this evening, by the way. We got so many gorgeous photos. You can check them out on our website, WKTV.com. This one from Jason and Clinton, probably one of the nicest sunsets that we've seen this season. A reminder, this is just the beginning of severe weather season. Have a way to get warnings to your phone. An easy way to do that is to download our Storm Tracker 2 weather app. Bigger picture shows a cold front moving through the region tonight, and this is going to bring a big change in the weather. Clouds tonight will give way to sunshine tomorrow. We're going to see a significant drop in the temperature. Things quiet down tonight. Overnight lows drop down into the low 40s. Much cooler tomorrow. High temperatures only in the mid 50s, so 30 degrees cooler tomorrow compared to today. Sunshine, a pleasant day. Frost is expected tomorrow night. Yes, I said frost. We're looking at overnight lows in the low 30s. Sunshine gives way to clouds on Thursday. We do warm up. High temperatures climb into the mid to upper 60s. Storms end tonight, low 43. Tomorrow, sunshine, cooler, high 55. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast. Frost tomorrow night, overnight lows in the low 30s. We're up to 68 Thursday, mostly cloudy, showers, thunderstorms Friday. Cooler weather to follow with rain to start the weekend. Sunday looks nice. Temperatures in the 60s Monday and Tuesday. We'll be right back.